I was supposed to drown. Concrete hardens quick around your ankles, but no one talks about how much it burns. It eats through your shoes, chews into the soles of your feet, but that was the least of my concerns. I sat at the stern of a small boat, perched over one of the deepest stretches of ocean.
Should have kept your mouth shut, Ricky,
Tommy said, his lips slick with grease, his breath thick with stale meat, a mouth breather if there ever was one. Please, I'll feed the cops dirty info. Don't do this, I pleaded. Behind him, Reggie sat heavy in his seat, a cigar pinched between his thick fingers. He eyed me like I was nothing, less than nothing, just another problem to be dealt with.
Nah,
He exhaled smoke, watching it twist into the night air.
too late for that. Drop him.
One push. That's all it took. I hit the water hard. My wrists were cuffed behind my back, and the current wrenched at them as the weight dragged me down. The pressure started at the base of my skull. My ears popped, pain blooming deep behind my jaw. Something clicked behind my eyes. Swelling. A brutal, unnatural pressure. The light above shrank. The cold tightened its grip. Then the real pain began. The pressure in my ears became unbearable. Invisible rods punching past my eardrums, churning my cochlea into soup. My skull felt like it was being crushed into a vice, my jaw prized apart by forces not meant for human bones. One eye throbbed, the socket loosening, ready to give. Still, I didn't die. My lungs screamed for air, spasming with the need to breathe. Instinct 1. I inhaled. Seawater flooded in, burning, choking. But it didn't end me. I kept sinking. The cold deepened. The weight of the ocean bore down, squeezing my ribs, pulling at my limbs. My ankles snapped under the force, the bones grinding apart inside the concrete. I felt my body break. I felt my insides rupture. I felt my mind slip past the edge of sanity from the agony. And yet, I lived. I always lived. I couldn't drown, couldn't suffocate, couldn't be crushed or torn apart, no matter how deep I sank, no matter how much my body screamed for release. Minutes passed before the cement block struck something soft, primordial sludge, ancient and untouched. The blackness here was absolute. I wasn't dead. I would never be dead. Reggie hadn't banished me to the grave. He had sentenced me to something far worse. He didn't know I was immortal when he had shoved me off the boat. No one did. It was my dirty secret, a profane curse. I'd seen empires rise and crumble. I'd seen eternities come and go. Because down here, in the crushing dark, I would never rot, never decay, never fade into nothing like a man should in the end. Instead, I would remain. Forever. And it didn't take me long to realize I wasn't alone down there.
What's up, everybody? My name is JJ Nachos, and welcome back, officially welcome back, to Season 2 of NACHO TALK. Now, I know it has been a very long time since Season 1, but we're back, finally, with a brand new light, a brand new vibe to NACHO TALK, if you couldn't tell by that first bit there. Again, I'm sorry for the huge wait in between seasons, but I've been trying to figure out how I want to go about NACHO TALK. Now, I realized that it wasn't the smartest idea, I guess, for me to do the whole guest a week thing because, well, one, I'm horrible at reaching out to people, and two, I'm horrible at sticking to a recording schedule. And 3, I have such bad luck with recording with people that I had like 4 different episodes that just got completely scrapped, like 2 or 3 of them being with the same person. So, but we're still, don't worry about that. If you like the guest episodes, we're still going to do that. It's just probably only going to be about once a month, maybe more, if I can work it out. I already have a few guests lined up that are excited to be on this new NACHO TALK thing. But speaking of new NACHO TALK thing, I guess I should talk about it. If you couldn't tell, we are now a horror podcast for the most part. Now, growing up, I was never really into horror like crazy like that much, but in the past couple of years, I've become a huge fan. That's thanks to a lot of different movies that I've checked out and YouTube channels, like shout out Dead Meat and stuff like that. Just like, and my wife, big shout out to my wife. She's got me into horror too. One of our first dates was watching a horror movie, and I shit my pants. So that was fun. But yeah, we're officially a horror podcast. I'm trying to stick to a script. That's why you see me looking over. I'm trying my best here. We're gonna get better at this over time, I swear. But basically, the new layout for these regular Nacho Talk episodes without guests will be, I'll read a couple like Reddit horror stories, or sometime eventually horror stories that maybe I write or come up with. Yeah, we start off the episode cold open horror story, and then I'll talk about it, talk about the first episode of each month. I'll talk about like horror movies coming out this month, and so for the said month, so on and so forth. Talk about some horror games from time to time, because I'll be playing the horror games, unfortunately, even though I hate myself every time I do. Then yeah, we'll read the second story and then talk about that story, talk about some other stuff. I'm trying to really get back into reading more. My goal is to read 1 to 2 books a month. I know it's not a lot, but start small and go up. My wife's a huge reader, so she's banging out more than 2 a month. So I'm gonna get there eventually. But yeah, we'll talk about some books I'm reading, so we can talk about everything. Like I want to bring more conversation with all of us, And then we'll read a third story and close it out, talking about the story, what's going on, and then close it out with a little surprise at the very end. Final closing statement of each episode. That's kind of the layout of what we got going on here. And I understand if people aren't too interested in that, but if you do like listening to just ASMR-ish, I guess, just horror story narration, I'm trying to get better at my voice acting as well too. So this is kind of a good avenue, I guess, for me to practice speaking as well. Trying to stop the ums, and very long pauses. But we're getting there. We're gonna get there. By the end of season 2, I'm sure we will be much better. I hope. But with all that being said, I guess that's basically it. I've been really into Reddit. Well, that sounds bad. I've been really into reading Reddit stories. Not into Reddit itself. I've been really into reading Reddit stories, which is why I went that way. It's just fun to read these horror stories that some could kind of be true, some very not true. But I wanted to find a way to give all these stories a voice, a nice chilling narration. And a lot of people say that they like my voice on stream. They think it would sound good for this stuff, so I'm giving it a try. These Nacho Talk episodes will be going up just about every Monday. I want to try and get 3 episodes out every month, or on some months, if I can crank them out enough. I've been preparing a lot, so I'm going to try and stick to a good schedule and get it going. I know I have horrible procrastination issues, but we're changing that. We're working on that. But yeah, I guess for this month, I know this episode will be going out like in the middle of the month. I think the 20th almost, or something like that. So real quick, for my audio listeners, this episode was supposed to go out a few weeks earlier, which is why I'm talking about movies that everybody in the world has probably already seen. So that's what that's for. Back to it. But yeah, I guess for this month, I want to talk about some horror movies coming out. I'm just going to list off the dates and what movies and everything, and then I'll go over the couple that I'm looking forward to the most. So for March, these have already come out, these first few. On March 6th, Dolly and the Bride have released. And Heel. Dolly, the Bride, and Heel. Sorry, I forgot about that one. And on March 13th, we have Undertone and Scared to Death. And on March 20th, it's a big one, we have Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, Touch Me, Do Not Answer, and Vampires of the Velvet Lounge. And then March 27th, finally, we have They Will Kill You and Forbidden Fruits. Quite a lot of horror movies this month. Do that many horror movies release often? I don't know. But I'm looking forward to a good amount of these movies. I read the description on quite a few of them. Some that I already know I'm looking forward to. My top 3 that I'm looking forward to are probably Undertone. I always love a good A24 movie. Got a few more coming out this year, I'm pretty sure, which I'm looking forward to a lot. Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. I'm looking forward to that one a whole lot. It takes place right after the first Ready or Not. If you've seen it, then you know how that ended. It was a very good movie. Very good. Love Samara Weaving. Very good. And then the third one I'm looking most forward to is They Will Kill You. From my understanding, it's kind of like a Kill Bill-esque movie, except I think the main character, is her name Zazie Beetz? I don't want to say it wrong. She is like in an apartment building and like killing cultists or something. There's like, I don't know. We're gonna figure it out. I'll get better at like writing more of this stuff down and explaining more for everybody, but that's just kind of how it's gonna be. First Nacho Talk of every month, we'll talk about the movies coming out, and we'll go on from there. But I feel like I've been talking a lot for this intermission. I know this is kind of what a podcast is supposed to be, but I think we should go ahead and hop into the second story. I'm excited. Are you? Was that good? Was that corny? A little bit? I don't, cringy? Who knows? I don't care. Let's get right into it.
The apartment I moved into has no mirrors. I found out why. When I signed the lease, I didn't notice anything strange. Small studio, old building, downtown. Seemed fine. No red flags, a little dusty, sure. A faint smell I couldn't place, like burnt hair. But the price was so low I barely blinked. I signed that same day. It wasn't until I started unpacking that I realized something weird. There were no mirrors. None. Not even in the bathroom. Not on the closet doors. Not even in the kitchen, where those ugly reflective backsplashes usually are. At first, I figured the last tenant just didn't like them. But then I noticed the walls where they should have been were patched up. Like someone had torn mirrors out and filled the gaps. Sloppy work, too. Uneven plaster, knife scratches. The kind of job you do when you're in a hurry or when you're scared. That night, I hung up a small mirror I bought from my last place. Just a round one, no frame. I stuck it above the bathroom sink and went to bed. At 3:22 a.m., I woke up. Not suddenly, not to a noise, I just felt awake. My eyes opened and my body refused to move. Sleep paralysis, I thought. But then I heard breathing. Not mine. Low, raspy, like someone with fluid in their lungs, coming from the bathroom. I could see the doorway from my bed. Nothing moved, but the breathing didn't stop. And then a faint scraping, like fingernails on glass. The next morning, the mirror was gone. Just gone. Not shattered, not fallen, just missing. I checked the floor, the trash, even the hallway. Nothing. I called the landlord and asked if maintenance had been in. He laughed. "Bathroom mirror?" he said. "Yeah, you don't want that. Best leave the walls blank. Trust me." Then he hung up. That night I heard something whisper my name. Not from the doorway this time. From inside the bathroom. I walked in with a flashlight. Nothing there. But I swear the wall where the mirror had been looked wetter than it should have. Like someone had breathed on it. I left the lights on after that. Slept with the TV playing static. It didn't help. Every time I'd hear it. A low chuckle like someone laughing underwater. The scrape of a palm sliding across glass. And once, just once, I looked toward the bathroom and saw a flash of reflection. Not mine, just eyes. Too high on the wall. Too wide. Watching. I tried hanging another mirror. This time I taped it to the inside of a cabinet. Kept it shut during the day. Figured maybe if I controlled it, I could stop whatever this was. But when I opened the cabinet that night, there was someone in it. Not behind the cabinet. In the mirror. It looked like me at first, but its mouth didn't move when mine did. Its arms stayed still while I trembled, and then it smiled. Not a normal smile. Too many teeth. Cracked lips. Like its face was stretching to fit. I slammed the cabinet shut and heard a shriek behind the wall. Like it was mad I'd caught it. I smashed that mirror the next morning, swept it up and threw it down the trash chute. Later that day, I saw someone watching me from across the street. Top floor. Dirty window. No lights on. They stood completely still for over an hour. And when I looked again that night, they were holding up a mirror to the glass, facing my apartment. I moved out the next morning. Didn't even ask for my deposit. Just left. The landlord didn't look surprised. He just said, "Lasted longer than most." I've been crashing on a friend's house since. But last night, the bathroom mirror in his place fogged up while I was brushing my teeth. And written in the condensation, in shaky, dripping letters, "Let me finish watching you."
Alright. The apartment I moved into has no mirrors. Well, it's safe to say I will be destroying every single mirror in my house now. I definitely could see this one being a little indie horror film for sure. Maybe it has been. I don't know. Like I said, I'm huge into horror now, but I've not seen every horror movie, believe it or not. If you guys have any recommendations, let me know. Hey, I would definitely star in this movie, so if anybody with some money want to make this happen, I'm down. I will get my ass ate by a mirror demon. You know, it's whatever. This one was very interesting. I'm trying to remember because, you know, as these episodes go, you guys should know I read these and go over them much later. So I'm just trying to think, like, what is this demon? I want to know more about these stories. I guess that's kind of the fun thing about these short stories, is they leave you wanting or wondering more, which is honestly a good thing. Well, if it's a good story, of course. There's not every story is great, which is, you know, it's fine. But I'm gonna try and get the best stories on this show. If you guys have any recommendations or any certain stories you want me to read, you know, feel free to let our brother know. Maybe we can reach out to the author. Who knows? All the details are in the description of these episodes. Please go check them out. I guess this makes me very excited for every other story to read, including the next one, which is the coup de grace of the episode. So let's get right into it.
The feeder. I quit my job as an EMT a few weeks ago. My colleagues were all shocked when I told them I was throwing in the towel. They thought I'd always be here. You see, I am very good at what I do. In fact, I had already explored options of furthering my career, maybe even advancing into the medical field. But I don't plan to do that anymore. I don't plan to be in any place where people might die from accidents or any other unnatural causes. Maybe I am going crazy. A few weeks ago, well, that's when I saw it for the first time, and I've seen it every time since we've had to respond to an incident that resulted in the victim passing away. I have no idea what it is. I call it the feeder. The call on April 25th was for a 3-vehicle collision just past the intersection of South Post Road and Bonaventure Boulevard. By the time we pulled in, a police car was already there. I saw a Wrangler, a Land Cruiser, and what looked like the twisted remains of a Fit in a ditch off to the side of the road. There were a couple folks milling about the Wrangler, and smoke was coming from the badly dented front end. They seemed in their teens to mid-20s. The officer was tending to an older-looking guy sitting on the ground by the Land Cruiser, which also had a nasty impact area on the side. I rushed out with my kit as my partner killed the engine, and I knelt next to the trooper, who nodded. "How's he doing?" "Seems to have gotten a bad knock, but there don't appear to be any broken bones," he answered. I noticed movement by the Fit. "Is your partner with the Vic in the other car? Is it bad?" The trooper turned to me and said that he was on a single officer patrol, and that the driver of the car in the ditch appeared to be a young woman who regrettably showed no signs of life. I looked up and clearly saw the outline of a shadow hovering near the driver's door. "Shit, man, seems like we have a curious onlooker. You better deal with that," I muttered as my partner knelt to support the gentleman from behind, checking his neck and shoulders. By then, another ambulance had arrived and was taking care of the 2 occupants of the Jeep. The trooper turned to me. "What are you talking about? There's nobody there." I stood up and pointed. "He's right there," and started to walk over. I got to within 5 feet of the car when I saw it, and I froze. I could not quite understand what I was looking at. It was black, blacker than anything I'd ever seen. It was vaguely shaped like a person, but the shape seemed to be fluid, distorting. But what really got to me was the slurping. This thing was bent over the young woman in the car, whose eyes were wide open, its mouth covering hers, and it seemed to be sucking something right out of her. With every slurp, I saw her body jerk slightly, Hey, hey you! What are you doing over there? I shouted and ran at the car, flinging open the passenger door. It did not stop. A solid, writhing black mass with a distorted head, no clear face, but what looked like the mouth continuing to draw something out of the body of the young woman. I heard footsteps behind me, and then a firm hand gripped me on my shoulder and spun me around. It was a trooper. What the hell's going on with you, man? Can't you see? I turned back to look inside the car, and it was gone. It was just the limp body of the young woman, pale white skin and long dark hair. Her head had now tilted in my direction, blood trickling from a gash in her forehead and from the sides of her mouth. Her eyes were still open, staring at me. There's no one there, man. I think you just need to take it easy. Ryan, what's up, man? You okay? My partner called from the other side of the road. One of the other EMTs and a young guy from the Wrangler were staring over his shoulder. In fact, everyone was staring at me now. I'm okay. I called back and shook my head hard. I thought to fix what I saw. It was a quiet ride to the hospital. We left the passengers from the Wrangler with the other team and took the old man with us for scans. I sat in the back with him. He appeared to have a concussion and maybe whiplash, but otherwise seemed okay. He kept looking at me funny the entire ride. He seemed happy when someone else wheeled him in. Videsh, the other EMT, tried to get me to talk about what I saw, but I was already starting to doubt myself. I just brushed it off. Stress, maybe. In a week, I had put it far to the back of my mind. The truth is, I didn't want to think about it too much, until it happened again. And again. I learned from that first experience and the past couple occasions when I realized no one else could see the feeder. I just kept it to myself. I was certain that I was having some sort of mental episode, some type of breakdown. Yet, my gut told me this was not just all in my mind. There was something out there, and it was feeding on these victims who met an untimely end. What was it taking from them? I don't know. I can speculate, but so can you. I quit the job after the last sighting. The victim was just a kid, and I almost threw up listening to that awful slurping. It seemed to be aware that I was there now, aware that I could see it, and it wanted to put on some sort of sick, demented, twisted show. I was an EMT for 5 years before I saw the feeder. I don't know why I started to see it when I did. I try to recall whether it was something that I had done that opened some kind of door. I don't know. We don't have a history of that kind of thing in my family. I don't search for answers. I just want to forget. Maybe it'll go away just like it started. I wonder though, am I the only one who can see it? Can any of you?
The feeder. Now, that one was crazy. That one, I definitely would like to see more and know more about this demon and story and everything. I feel like it has, like, somewhat similarities to that movie, It Follows, which was pretty good. I enjoyed it. Yeah, I really want to know more about this creature. Like, it's just, well, why did it just all of a sudden show up to this guy, to the person, the narrator? Maybe the thing didn't choose at all, like they said in the story. Maybe they did step through some weird dimensional portal that made them just be able to have feeder sight or something. I want to know what everybody else thinks about this stuff. That's why, I want comments. I want conversation. I want to talk about this stuff with everybody. It'd be cool to have some fans or listeners on for some episodes to talk about these stories. Even that could be fun. I don't know. That's a fun one, the feeder. And my problem is I read so many of these stories and I get like ideas and stuff, and just if I could just have infinite budget, I would love to make all of these into real, like, at least short films or something. And I'm sure, if I had enough creativity in this brain, I wouldn't need too much of a budget. We're getting there. The cogs are moving again, slowly but surely. But yeah, I mean, I guess that's it for the final story, the final big story. I'm really happy to be reading these and bringing the stories to life. If you guys have any recommendations on what I could do to up the show, make it better. You know, eventually we'll have longer episodes, and of course the guest episodes will be longer. I know people like longer episodes, especially for these story readings. Maybe I can read more stories per episode. You know, if you guys have any recommendations, like any story recommendations, like I said, you can DM me on the official Nacho Talk Instagram or TikTok, or you can email nachotalkofficial@gmail.com. All the info is down in the description. Thank you all so much for listening to the return of Nacho Talk. Like I said, these episodes won't be like, nope, I'm moving the mic all around. These horror story episodes most likely won't be like very long, all of them, which if you guys do want me to change that, you know, like I said, happy to take any recommendations or advice or what you guys think. But yeah, I guess with all that being said, my name is JJ Nachos, and you should listen to Nacho Talk. I'll see you all next week, and the next, and possibly even the next. But before I go, can't forget the final 2-sentence horror to run off the episode. This one we read live. This 2-sentence horror is from user 54321 Run. I spent 20 years in prison for a crime that I didn't commit, praying that I might someday see my kids again. When I finally did, I beat them to death with a bat, just like they did to their mother before they pinned it on me. Damn, that is a way to end the episode. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next week.